Act two, what you need to include. I'm Karen Beery with Right Now Editing, where we turn good manuscripts into great books.
And I'm Peg Thomas, multi-award winning author and editor, and we are two editors for 5 minutes.
We're going to try to keep it to 5 minutes. We're talking about Act two. Act two is the longest part of your book. So I don't know if we're going to get through Act two today, especially because Peg and I approach it very differently. So when we're talking about what you need to include in Act two, we use different terms. We write them differently. I look at Act two as one large act. She actually breaks it up into two acts. She's got because she does the four act structure. Um,
Yes, it makes more sense.
it,
Well, it
it,
makes
it
more
makes
sense to someone who's like more. Remember, I went to college for drafting, design,
mhm.
engineering. So for my engineering brain, the four quarters makes much more sense than a short a short first scene, a big middle scene, and a short end scene. I just break them up evenly.
And I think part of it too depends on how you look at it. She's a plotter. I'm a character person. So I don't squeeze the characters into those four acts. I watch them develop differently. Um, but let's talk about what you need to include in Act Two as much as we can. Peg, Act Two starts, we were just saying when what happens to the characters.
A lot of people call it the character's journey. Okay, something's going to shake the character out of their normal, and they're going to start a new phase of life. And it doesn't have to be a physical journey; it can be an emotional journey, it can be a philosophical journey, spiritual journey. But there's something that's going to knock them out of normal and propel them on another path, and that's usually something they don't welcome.
So when you're looking at what happens between Act One and Act Two, I like to call that the doorway. Um, the character has to make a decision to do something. And like Peg said, it's going to be some type of journey, but your character is making a decision, and it's oftentimes not one they want to make. But if they just, if they just go back to normal, like I said last week, your character's at a grocery store, she forgets her wallet. If she says, "Oh, well, never mind, I'll just go home," you don't really have a story. But suppose her boss shows up and her boss is someone that she doesn't like. And he says, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'll pay for your groceries, but I'm going to need a special favor at work." Now, all of a sudden, things are changing. You're moving into Act Two. So we're in there. Something's going to change. And really, what's going to happen is your character can't go back. After this decision has been made and this journey has started, your character's not going to be able to go back. We have to see what's going to happen. So, Peg, when you're writing, as you're plotting through Act Two, what's the next thing you look for that is an absolute must be included in Act Two?
Because I work with history and I write using real history. My historical points are taken right from real life, so that makes it easy. All I have to figure out is how does the history affect my character, affect their journey? How do they logically react to it, and and how do they get caught up in it, or how do they get free of it? So my tension is kind of baked in writing historical. I don't have to come up with that very much. I just have to have how my characters react to it. Right now, I'm writing a series set in Salem with the witch trials. Boy, there's tons of tension. I don't have to invent anything because it's all there. It's just figuring out how my character is going to react to it. Whereas you
Word
have to
that she
figure it all
used,
out.
yeah, but the word that she used that's imperative for your second act is that tension.
Yeah.
If there's no tension, which is very closely related to conflict, they are not the same thing. But if there's no tension, if there's no conflict, there's no story. There's no reason to keep reading. Because essentially, when someone picks up your book, what they want to see is what are these characters willing to overcome to get to the end of the book? It's not going to be easy. You've got to keep that tension. We've got about 30 seconds left. So I'm going to tell you when I'm creating my characters for second act, what I look at as far as creating tension is if you've ever looked at the line graph of the U.S. economy and how when they first started tracking, it started way down here, but it's been growing ever since, and it keeps going up and down and up and down. And it's that bar graph, or excuse me, that line graph with all of these peaks and dips and peaks and dips. As I am moving my characters through Act Two, that's what their story has to look like to me. I have to visualize that things are gonna go well, and then it's gonna go bad, and then it's gonna go well, and then it's gonna go bad throughout the entire second act. But that's all we have time for. 5 minutes. I told you it wasn't gonna be enough because we're still moving through Act Two. We'll talk about the rest of it when we come back next week. Until then, I am Karen Beery.
And I'm Peg Thomas. We'll see you next week to talk about Act 3.